Okay, good day everyone. So in today's video, we are going to discuss 5 topics. Okay, so first is we're going to familiarize ourselves with project file structure, then a simple hello world project, then base introduction on the basics of a JSX, then how are we going to import Next.js components, and lastly is we're going to have using our CSS files. So how are we going to import CSS files into our uh, Next.js project? Okay. So on the first video, we have created our project by using the npx command. Okay. So after that, it has created different files as what you could see in the screen here. Okay. So we must be familiar first with these files or the structure of this project before going through with our um, coding. Okay. So first is we have. By the way, these are folders. If you could see this arrow here, so meaning these are folders, and we have here our files. Okay. So we are on, as you could remember on our first video, we have created a project named lessons. So we're now inside the folder lessons. Then all of these are on the root directory of lessons. Okay. So we have these different files now. For example, we have the JSON file, the JSON config file. Okay. Then what else? Package.json. So what you could observe here are actually the content of these files are actually settings for our project. So do not change anything on these files as of now. Okay, so just leave them as it is, and we are just going to have we are going to manipulate files only under app folder, and soon we are going to have also our public. Okay, so these are the files, the settings, project settings files, and again, do not change or do not alter anything on these files. So next is we have our app folder. Okay, so an app folder by default, so we have how many files? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 files. Okay, so you have the icon, the CSS, the layout and pages.js, and another CSS files. Okay, so again, these are created by the command npx. Okay, so as of now, I'm just going to delete these files because we are not going to use them as of this moment. Okay, so I'm just going to delete them. Also from the public, I'm just going to delete. This is actually to avoid confusion on many files that we have here. So we're just going to concentrate on these 2 files. Okay, so first is we have the layout.js. I want you to take note, since we have deleted the globals.css, so it is going to return an error if ever we are not going to delete this line here. Okay, so on layout.js, only remove this line here as of now. We are going to have a separate discussion on layout.js on the coming videos. So save. Then we have the page.js. Okay, so if every time I'm going to go back to the output, okay, I still have an error. Why? It is because we are importing here a file called module.css in which we had deleted a while ago. So I'm just going to delete it first, then save to remove that error. Okay, so it is still updating. Now, so I want you to understand that page.js is below app folder. Okay, it is inside the app folder. So take note that when Next.js runs this application, it is going to look for page.js. So this will be the very first file that is going to be executed by Next.js when it is run. Okay, styles is not okay. Anyway, it is giving me again an error for this one here, so I'm just going to delete it later. Okay, so again, going back. So page.js must always be here under the app folder. Why? Because it is going to be the file that is going to be executed by Next.js when we are going to run our application. Okay, so it is just actually what is now the content of the page.js. It is just actually a functional component. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete all of these. We are going to create our own. Okay, so first is we are going to create a functional component. Okay, const. I'm just going to call this one as my home. It is an arrow function, by the way. Okay, then an arrow function must return something. Okay, and it's going to return actually a JSX. Later on, we're going to discuss what is a JSX. Okay, then we are going to issue the command export default, then home. Okay, so we are going to have this command here now, because in every functional component that we're going to have, so there must be at least one export statement. Why? Because when this component or this file here is going to be called, so it is going to by default export this one here. So when other pages imports, take note, when other pages imports this file, so it is by default it is going to export this component, okay, this function, because it is possible that we could still create another functions here. Okay, another function. Okay, but by default, it is going to return this one here. Okay, and that has been stated on line 11, in which we are going to, by default, we are going to export the component home. But as of now, we're just going to have a single component. Okay, so it is not returning anything yet. Okay, so for example, I'm going to have here, I'm going to return hello world. Okay, so we don't have any error now. So as I'm going to save that file, okay, so I have here now the output, which is hello world. Okay, so this is the basic structure of a page.js file. Okay, so it must be a component, then it must have to export default something. Okay, in our case, we are default exporting by default the home function. Okay, so that is page.js project file structure. Then, by the way, we also have do not alter the content of node modules. It is because it is on the node modules where the node packages are being installed. Okay, so do not change anything on the node modules folder. Then we have the public, in which we are going to have later on. Okay, so going back, so we are now in our topics. Okay, so we're now done with the project structure and hello world. Okay, so next is we're going to have our JavaScript XML or the JSX. So in every functional component, it must return a JSX. So what we have here now is actually a JSX. Okay, so what is really a JSX? It is a combination of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript commands. Okay, so since it could understand HTML, so therefore all tags that you know on HTML, you could use them here. Okay. Now, for example, I'm going to add hello world. Then I'm going to say and I'm just going to type hello next.js. Please be good to me. Okay. So because what I want is that I want the hello world there, then the please be good to me will be on the next line. But as you can see, we have now an error. Okay. So as I'm going to point my mouse pointer here, it says JS expressions must have one parent element. Okay. So therefore, on our return statement, there should be only one parent element. Okay. So because what we are returning now are actually two elements. Okay, so we're in node next.js wants us to return only a single element. So I could use here a fragment. This is what we call as fragment, a blank tag. Okay, then I'm going to have the two elements inside it. Okay, so as you can see, we don't have any errors now. So we are returning all of these as single element. Okay, so save. Okay, so you could see there now, hello JSX, then please be good to me. Okay, so I just want you to take note that in this area here, in this, we are going to have here our JavaScript code. Okay, normally we're going to have here our JavaScript code, and below on the return statement we are going to return JSX elements. Okay, so we have here our JSX, and pure JavaScript is we're going to have before our return statement. Okay, and by the way, if ever you're already familiar with JavaScript, you could have you could actually put some more JSX functions, not JSX, JavaScript functions all over this file. But as of now, we're just going to keep it simple. We are going to make it this way. So we're going to concentrate on a single function. Okay. So next on our list is we're going to have how are we going to import JSX or no JS next.js components. Okay. So we have predefined components from next.js. For example, is the image component. Okay, but anyway, again, you could still use the image tag. Okay, but what I'm going to show you is we are going to use the image component, so instead of the img HTML tag. Okay, so we are going to display here an image. So how are we going to display our image? So first is we are going to create an assets folder, and that is on the public folder. Okay, so I click on the public folder here, then I'm going to have an assets folder. Okay, why assets? Because it is possible that we are going to have images, audio files, and other assets that we could use into our application. So therefore I have here an assets folder. Then inside the assets folder I'm going to have the images folder, wherein I'm going to store my images into this folder. So I'm going to select a file, okay, an image file, just anything. Okay, so I'm going to have so here. Okay, so I could click and drag it here. Okay, so you could see I have here on the file, so I'm just going to rename stud. Okay, a student. Okay, so I just renamed so that it would be easier for us to import or to use this file later on. Okay, so again, our topic here is how are we going to import a next.js component. And again, we are going to use the image component. Okay, so we're going to have here import, then the component which is image, then from next slash image. Okay, so we have from the next library is we have an image. Okay, image component. So I have imported that with, take note, image with a capital I. Okay, so that is going to display an image. So how are we going to use that component? Okay, so take note, I just would like to emphasize this is a predefined component because later on we are going to create our own components. Okay, so we have image, then we have the source. Okay, our source is from the public folder, and once it is on the public folder, we are not going to specify it anymore. We are just going to have the assets slash images and the name of the file, which is stud.jpg. Okay, then the other properties, other props, so we have the alternate text, student image, then we're going to specify the width. Let us say I'm just going to have 200 pixels. Then we also have the height. Let us say no, the width is 200, so I'm just going to, since it is landscapes, I'm just going to have 300 by 200. Okay, then close. Okay, then save. Oops. Okay, so as you can see here, we have an error. I forgot. Okay, so if using relative image, it must start with a slash. Okay, so we're going to change so here slash then assets. Okay, so we have here now our image. Okay, now so take note, as the error said a while ago, if ever we're using here a relative path, okay, so we must always start with slash. But where does the slash starts? It starts with actually the public folder. Okay, so that's why we have here slash, then as you consider we have the assets, images, then we have the stud.jpg. Save it there. Assets, images, and stud.jpg. Okay, so that's how are we going to import a component from Next.js. As we go along, we are going to still have more of components that we could import from Next library. Okay, next, we have our last topic for this video is how are we going to import a CSS files. Although later on I'm going to show you how are we going to use the Bootstrap framework, okay, for our CSS. But as of now, if ever that you have decided, or if just in case you are going to use your own CSS, so how are we going to import here with Next.js? So for example, I'm going to create here a very simple CSS file. I'm just going to call it style.css, okay, and I'm going to call it red color. Then I'm going to return color, let us say red. Okay, so a very simple class. Okay, so it is going to return red color. Okay, so what I want is that I'm going to have my hello next.js to be red. Okay, so in our basic HTML, we are going to name that, or we're going to call that through the class property. Okay, but here, since JSX, take note, JSX uses HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so therefore, class could not be used here now as to call a class in our CSS. Why? Because class is a reserved word in JavaScript. That is when we are going to work with objects or classes. Okay, so in this case, we are going to use it. We are going to use keyword class name. Okay, class name is equal to, we have the red color. Okay, as you can see it here on our style.css. So next is we are going to import, okay, that CSS, or slash style.css. Okay, so we have imported here our style.css. Then wait, this is layout, so I'm just going to, should be on page that, although actually we could still have that on layout, but as of now we are going to concentrate on the page.js. Okay, style.css. Then we have our red color class in our h1. So save. Okay, so we have it there, the red color. Okay, so these are, okay, on our next topics we're just going to have how are we going to code our JavaScript on here on our functional component. But as of now, we have created a very simple page, okay, that displays hello world, then an image component. How did we import that? Through the import statement. Then how are we going to also import, how are we going to use a CSS that we have created into our next.js page. Okay, so I guess that's all for this video. On the next video, we're going to discuss how are we going to transfer from one page to another, or that is actually the basic routing of next.js. Okay, so that's all for today, and I'll see you on the next video.